What's going on, guys? Mediocre PC Gaming here, back with another video, and today I want to show off a build guide for a Torment 10 Pestilence build for the Necromancer. So this build will be using the Pestilence set, so I'll go ahead and go through the gear right now. Before I do, I'll let you know that this is good for doing pretty much anything in Torment 10, but I would not recommend this build for GR pushing. It's not going to be the strongest build, but it's just something that you can put together in case you want to use the Pestilence set and go around and just casually farm some T10. So we'll go through the set bonuses. The two-piece set bonus: each corpse consumed fires a corpse lance at a nearby enemy. This is pretty much going to be useless for us. None of our damage is really going to be coming from it, but it will help us stack our Gogok of swiftness. The four-piece: each enemy hit with Bone Spear reduces your damage taken by 2% up to a 50% of damage reduction. So it's just your 50% damage reduction right there. It's not too hard to stack, it's just kind of slow to stack it. I kind of wish that the stacks would last 30 seconds instead of 15, but it works well enough. And then the six-piece: each corpse you consume grants you an empowered Bone Spear charge that increases the damage of your next Bone Spear by 3,000%. And so while this won't stack with itself, you can only get a maximum of 3,000% increase on your Bone Spear. You can have empowered Bone Spears in reserve, up to 100 of them. So there's going to be a lot of corpses that spawn in this build, so you're never going to have to worry about not having an empowered Bone Spear really once you get into the Rift. And then for a weapon, we're using Montorius's Petrified Spike. It's allowing us to get about a 450% increase on the damage of our Bone Spear, but it doubles the essence cost of Bone Spear. We'll be using Crispin's Sentence, allowing us to get 100% potentially increased damage against slowed enemies, and we'll get actually triple damage against enemies that are affected by any other crowd control other than slow. And we'll also be using the Moribund Gauntlets, so having our Golem shed a corpse every second. That'll really help for being able to activate our Golem and being able to consume corpses for essence for us. I'm using a Hellfire Amulet right now. At the moment, I can't think of any really better amulet to use. There isn't exactly a very good one to use, but a Hellfire and a fifth passive definitely does not hurt. A standalone passive is not exactly what you want, but I had this really nice primal amulet, so I decided just to put it on. I didn't have any materials to craft anymore, but we'll get into the passives later. Bracers, Ancient Parthian Defenders is good for more damage reduction if you want it. You're gonna have a lot in this build, so it's not gonna do too much for you. But essentially, you probably want to go for Reaper's Wraps actually for even more essence regeneration when you get health globes, just to make sure you're completely capped out on your essence. And here we're also using Dainty's Binding for the belt, and giving us potentially 50% even more damage reduction while an enemy is affected by Decrepify. And lastly, we're using the Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac to allow us to have some more cooldowns, because we want to be able to cast Decay Golem as much as we can, and that's kind of our big cooldown that we have to worry about. Everything else is negligible. And so we're going to go through the skills now. All of our damage is going to be coming from Bone Spear, and we want to be able to have the most damage possible on Bone Spear. And so we're going to be using Blighted Marrow. That's going to allow us to get the most damage possible in high density. We're using Bone Armor Dislocation. Enemies hit or stunned for 2 seconds. That's going to allow us to stack up some more damage reduction with Ancient Parthian Defenders, more damage reduction just from using Bone Armor, and also allow us to have that triple damage against enemies whenever we stun them. So this is normally what you want to pop whenever you're in maybe really high density, or whenever you're fighting an elite. You want to pop that and then try and hit them with a few Bone Spears. And then we're also using Decrepify Wither just to get that damage reduction from Dainty's Binding, and we're using Wither so that enemies do 40% reduced damage. Just a lot of damage reduction built into this build. And then we're using Command Golem Decay Golem, and that makes golems damage poison, and this is a corpse-based build. Pretty much when you run out of corpses in this build, you're kind of screwed. And so a lot of people might be asking, why aren't you using Flesh Golem? Because that when you activate your Golem, that spawns 8 corpses with you, for you. We are actually using the Black Death in the cube, which increases the damage of our poison skills by 65% for every poison skill that we use. So that's another reason why we have Dislocation on Bone Armor and Blighted Marrow on our Bone Spear. And so we're using Decay Golem just to get another 65% bonus damage on all of our poison skills. We're trying to stack as many poison skills as we can on this build. And then we've got Devour Cannibalize. It's essentially going to act the same as Devouring Aura once we do the Numlock trick with it. I'll show you guys how to do the Numlock trick in a second. But we're using Cannibalize so that we can get some health regeneration, and in the cube we're using the chest, which doubles the essence and health regeneration of Devour. So we're going to be essentially getting 6% health regeneration for each corpse consumed. We're going to have a lot of health regen in this build. And then we're using Blood Rush Potency. We're just using Potency to get that a little bit more toughness with getting a 100% armor increase after using it. But you could use Molting possibly if you want more corpses and sense more essence. But you know, all of these are pretty good. The only one I wouldn't recommend is Homeostasis. The health cost is pretty much negligible, but Potency is good if you want to just be even tankier. On the passives, I don't know if these are the absolute best passives to really use with this build, but this is what I've come with. A lot of passives for the Necromancer are kind of lackluster, but regardless, this is what I've chosen to use. I'm using Overwhelming Essence to get even more total essence, because you can only use Bone Spear about 5 times before you run out of essence, so getting this will bump it up to 6, and you know, it can't really hurt us. We're using Commander of the Risen Dead so that we can reduce the cooldown of our Golem by 30%, allowing us to spam him more and keep that added poison damage. We're using Fueled by Death basically just to get some movement speed, because this is a farming build. Maybe if you try and take it into Greater Rifts, you can use Final Service instead, getting that cheat death. But for now, we're just going to use Fueled by Death. And then we're going to use Life from Death, 20% chance to spawn a health globe at the consumption of a corpse. This is actually really helpful because, like I said, there's a lot of corpses that we're consuming. Pretty much all corpses that drop are going to be consumed. So there's going to be a lot of health globes on screen and allow for us to get a lot of health regeneration. You can also potentially swap out Fueled by Death for Ceration if you want even more damage on your bone spikes. You'll get up to 20% increased damage based off how far you are away from an enemy. On our gear, we are using Zay's Stone of Vengeance, so that passive will synergize really well with this gem. But this gem will also, at the rank 25 ability, will give us 20% chance to stun an enemy for 1 second, which can be bad for us because that will potentially allow an enemy to build up CC immunity before we use our bone armor. So it intentionally might build up CC immunity before we can pop bone armor on them. So you can, if you don't want to use the rank 25 Zay's Stone, you can either leave it at 24 or potentially maybe put on an Esoteric Gem or a Bane of the Trap. Those are, or Bane of the Powerful. Those are always good. Or maybe Stricken if you're pushing GRs. Then we've got our Gogok on just for more cooldown reduction and dodge chance. That'll help give us a bit more toughness, especially with that dodge chance. And then Bane of the Trap just for pretty much increased damage all the time. And then in the cube, we're going to have on the Black Death, like I said, 65% bonus damage for poison skills for every poison skill that we use. So in total, we've got 3 poison skills to use on our bar, so that's nearly 200% increased damage. I think it's actually 195% increased damage on our poison skills, just to bolster Bone Spear's damage even more. And then we've got the Requiem Seraplate, allowing us to get 100% essence and life, 100% additional essence and life, I should say. And then if we restore above our essence or life, the essence that we restored is granted to us over 3 seconds, which will be nice to pretty much again give us a little bit of passive health and essence regeneration. And then Ring of Royal Grandeur to tie up the entirety of the build. I do have 950 Paragon, but the first things that you're going to want to invest into, of course, will be movement speed, and then you'll probably want to put it into intelligence. You can put it into maximum essence, again, to get another use on Bone Spear, but I think we've got enough at 240. Then you're probably going to want to go critical hit chance, critical hit damage, cooldown reduction, then attack speed. Then I would go armor, all res, life regeneration, and then I would probably go resource cost reduction, area damage, life per hit, gold find. And also in your helm, you want to have all topazes on. If you're feeling a little bit weak, you can put diamonds on, but in your helm, you can either choose to put a diamond or a amethyst in there. If you're feeling a little bit weak, diamond will help again reduce the cooldown of golem. I do have a little bit of cooldown reduction already on my gear. I honestly have probably too much. I could probably switch this out for critical hit damage, but again, I just want to make sure I have enough cooldown on my golem, because this is a 45-second cooldown, and I want to be able to use it at least every 15 seconds. But otherwise, that's pretty much the build. This is what you're going to want to try and use, at least in the normal torment farming. And I'll show you guys how to do the numlock trick really quick before we go into a GR55. So that's the equivalent of T12, just to show that this build can even carry on T10, not just run solo. But first, what you want to do is you want to go into options, key bindings, scroll down until you find action bar skill 1, 2, 3, and 4, and have the second key set to numbed 1, 2, 3, and 4. Apply it, and before accepting, actually, make sure you have your force move to mouse wheel down and mouse wheel up for the keys 1 and 2. And then again, apply and accept. Return to game, and you're going to want to have cannibalize set to a number. It can't be set to a letter, and it can't be set to a mouse click. And then, so you're going to hold down the number on your numpad that you have cannibalize set to, and then at the same time you're going to hold down the numlock button after that, and then just let them go at the same time. And as you can see, I'm not pressing any keys right now, but no, cannibalize is still being cast even as I'm moving around. Now if you start holding your mouse button to move around, that's giving your character constant input and interrupts them being able to cast whatever you have set on your numlock trick. But if you use mouse wheel up and down, you're just spamming input, allowing them to cast it in between those spams. So that's what you want to do to essentially get the Devouring Aura passive or rune for Devour for free. So I'm just gonna go ahead and go into a GR55 real quick to show you guys kind of how this build works and what you want to do, what the playstyle is, because there is kind of a learning curve to the build, and just, you know, of course, Necromancers in general. I'm gonna try and just show off a little bit of the gameplay. So the first thing you're gonna want to try and do is you want to click right under your golem when he spawns one of those corpses, and that does count as a poison skill. Even though he did not consume the corpse, just the fact that he started the animation to go over to it does give you that bonus damage. And then you want to try and just shoot off some bone spears from a distance to get your damage reduction up, and of course to cast a Crepify on a mob to again get your damage reduction up. Then you're going to want to cast Bone Spear, and you really don't need to have, especially even on Torment 12 solo, you really don't need to have Decrepify up all the time, just if you think you're going to have a lot of damage coming your way. But you pretty much just want to make sure you have bone armor up, and you're using your golem's active ability on cooldown, and then just as you saw there, use your bone armor next to elites. Once you've got 10 stacks of bone armor, that is, use it next to elites to get that triple damage against them. And then you just want to keep moving on from there. So again, your panic skill pretty much is Blood Rush, along with, you know, even Bone Armor, Blood Rush, and Decrepify. Those are all kind of your panic skills. Blood Rush will get you out or maybe into a fight if you want it. Bone Armor will give you that stun and bonus damage, and Decrepify will give you damage reduction and reduce the enemy's damage. Now you're gonna have a lot of like abilities down there on your HUD. The only thing you really need to pay attention to is your Nir's Black Death and your Mycon's Fortitude, because those are the two most important things that you want to have there. That's what you really want to pay attention to. And I just ran into an arcane. There isn't, or at least I personally haven't stacked a lot of secondary resistance, and I wouldn't say there's a lot of all-res built into the build. This is an intelligence-based class, so you're going to have a lot of natural all-res, but again, you just can't tank everything. And before your damage reduction is up, you know, you want to play pretty carefully. That's why I died 2 times in a row right there. I just wasn't playing carefully enough. Again, this is Torment 12 though. In T10 you shouldn't have any problems. But yeah, just whenever you're getting back up and getting to the swing of things, just try and stay back and you know, cast some bone spears until you've got 25 stacks here, and then make sure you've always got 3 on your make sure you've always got 3 on your Black Death. And I'm not playing very well at all on this for this run, so I apologize for that. I probably should have actually popped this channeling pylon, but I didn't, like an idiot. Now if you can get far away from an enemy, that's good, but of course you do have to be close to them to pop your bone armor. So, you know, you kind of have to choose what you want to do. I mean, Zay's Son of Vengeance is never going to give you the quadruple damage that Stunning can, but once they've once enemies have become CC immune, you might as well just stay back. And again, this build does take a good amount of practice and you know, just time to get used to. There's a lot of micromanaging, but I kind of like that. That, you know, it's not just like a boring pet build. It is fun to play, I'll say that. You know, it's kind of a skill shot with your bone spear, because it's not homing or anything. You've really got to aim it. Every time I'm using bone spear, I'm actually while I might be clicking on an enemy, I am normally using the force stand still, and I might be leading an enemy if I don't think it's going to get them in time. And this is actually a very good map for us. These long rift maps like this are going to be very, very great for you. It's going to allow your bone spear to pass through just tons and tons of enemies. But even the open rift maps are really going to be pretty good, because as long as you can clump up the enemies tight enough, bone spear is still going to be able to you know, get through quite a bit of enemies. There is no, you know, there's no grouping though in this build at all, so it's kind of up to you to try and group the enemies yourself. Hopefully you'll just get lucky enough to where they do group on their own. Definitely a very good rift map for us to have. Alright, now I need to get out of here. As you can see, I did tank a good amount, but that's because I was spamming again my Bone Armor, Blood Rush, and Decrepify. What you want, those are the 3 skills that you're going to want to use when you're in trouble. Either Blood Rush to get yourself out of there, Decrepify definitely to get that damage reduction going, and maybe Bone Armor for a stun. Which, you know, of course, as you guys get better at playing this build, you'll learn to play it on your own, of course. I myself even am not that great at it. And I don't want to say I have completely created this build. I did have some help from Diablo fans to give me a little bit of direction with this build. The Diablo fans build, though, itself was fundamentally different in that it got its damage from Corpse Lance. I didn't feel like I was getting quite enough damage from Corpse Lance, and I couldn't have... it also used Land of the Dead to have just a billion Corpse Lances going it all the time. I felt like it just wasn't possible to have permanent uptime on Land of the Dead. I think to get that going, you'd probably need a Necromancer Legendary, which at the time doesn't exist, I don't think. That'll reduce the cooldown of Land of the Dead. And I just got ran over, because I wasn't paying attention. But yeah, you just aren't able to have Land of the Dead up long enough, in my opinion. So I like trying to use the Corpse Lance or the Bone Spear for damage instead. And so this is where the build is going to suffer, is definitely on the Rift Guardian. That's where it's going to suffer most, because you're going to be it's going to be a little bit hard to stay all the way up on Essence. Your Golem shedding a corpse every second is definitely going to help, but it's going to be a little bit tough, because the only thing you're going to have for corpses is most likely going to be your Golem, unless you've got a Rift Guardian with ads. You're definitely going to want to get a Rift Guardian with ads if you can. But yeah, I will say that I made this build on my own. I did use some help, but I didn't have anyone to make this particular variant, the Bone Spear variant, for me. I just, through a little bit of testing and just figuring things out, I put this build together myself, and it does work. I've carried in T10 with it. It's obviously, as you can see, it's not very, very fast. I'd say it's about the speed of maybe a Crusader without using this actual steed charge set can go, which, you know, it's not incredibly slow, but it's definitely one of the slower classes in the game. So far, I haven't found necessarily an actual speed farming build that does, you know, just go very, very, very fast. But the build is strong enough and quick enough, definitely, to do T10 casually. You can carry. You can probably do. I'm almost certain you can do key wardens. You can do your bounties if you so choose to. If I was doing bounties personally, I'd do it on a completely different character. But you can do your bounties. You can do your rifts. And then you can probably do your greater rifts in groups up to maybe 55. I'd say if I had a good group, I could have done that 55 easily as well. So it's a pretty casual build, meant for the low levels. And Pestilence, the Pestilence set itself isn't really one of the stronger builds for the Necromancer anyways, but it's fun to play. I definitely recommend, if you guys have the gear for it, definitely try it out and let me know what you guys think. So until the next one, I'll end the video here, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.